government period was, of course, very special. It had its own nature of how to do things. Being in politics is not like being in business. They're very, very different. There are certain characteristics which are useful in both of them. When I joined the government, some of my colleagues came to me because I was a businessman. I was attending the meeting, and my interaction in the meeting was very similar to what I had in the business. And they said, "What are you trying to do in the meeting? Why you are very pushy to get to a result?" And I said, "Because this is what I trained to do. I come into the meeting and I want to achieve result." They said, no. You have to understand this is politics. And in politics, it's not about the results, it's about the activities. We do activities, we don't care about the results. Just cool down and slow down a little bit. And I didn't, because I didn't want to change myself, because I remember when I made the shift from my family business to corporate business, when I went to Unilever, I went into a new environment, and it was very, very different. Before I was my own boss, I was running my own business. I had my own style, I had my own way of doing things. And I remember after I arrived to London 2-3 weeks later, the chairman of the company, who was a very good friend of mine, invited me to lunch, and he said, "How are you coping with being in a corporate like Unilever, which is like a country?" I mean, Unilever was in 200 countries and had like 600,000 people working. And I said, "Fine, I'm trying to adapt." He said, No. Take my advice, don't try to adapt. You are here because of who you are.
Interesting.
You have been chosen here because of what you do and how you do it. So if you come here and try to change yourself to do things the way we do it, it doesn't make any sense. And that was a very valuable advice, because I understood then the value of really maintaining your integrity and maintaining your way of doing things. So I remember that very well when I went to the government, that I am there because of who I am.
Yes.
And I'm not going to be doing things the way that other people do it. And I'm not saying other people are doing wrong or right, that's not the point. But my strengths, my ability of achieving things, my ability to make a difference is based on me being myself. I have to make sure that I don't lose my integrity, I don't lose my character when I'm in a different job. That was probably very new in the government, because people felt a little bit uncomfortable about that.
Yeah.
Because I felt I don't care to stay, because I'm just doing it and I'm doing it my way.
You became one of Egypt's most successful and respected ministers, and a lot of the trade agreements and the work you did during that time impacted Egypt so positively. What were your proudest moments?
When I joined the government, I have to admit that I knew very little, and it was a very pressing time to try to catch up and understand not just the way to perform and the way to do the job, but also how to set the priorities and how to set the agenda for working. I was lucky to have people around me who were very competent and very cooperative, which is very unique in the government, because not only in Egypt, I've seen it in many governments and many places around the world. I was a minister of foreign trade, so I had the big advantage of traveling and being exposed to many, many countries during my time in the government. And it was very normal in all the governments that people are fighting among themselves. That's the nature of politics. You go to the US, you go to Japan, you go to Brazil, you go to Africa, it's all the same, because everybody wants to be special, everyone wants to be in a position to get credit, because that's how they survive, whether they want to have the blessing and the appreciation of their constituents, which is the public, or whether they want to have popularity, or whether they want to have the acceptance of their bosses. That is how they survive every day. I was blessed when I was in Egypt to have people around me who were cooperative, but at the same time they were very competent to help me do my job and to give me the ability to set my agenda. And I set an agenda which was very impactful in development of the economy, in development of the trade, of the industry. I started with 2 ministries and then I expanded into more. I started with the Ministry of Foreign Trade and Industry, and then I took the internal trade. And then before even I left, I took the Ministry of Investment. And it was very important for me to have a very clear direction. I'm not saying that I am the one who set the direction, because it was part of the policies set in the government. But I knew very well that one of the most important things for us is to be positively integrating in the international economy. No government, no country will succeed today if it's in isolation. The reality of the world today depends on how much you are integrated globally and how much you are open to competition. For that purpose, it was very important for me to develop a set of trade agreements between Egypt and the rest of the world. We have succeeded in creating an amazing network of trade agreements which exists until today today and benefit the country until today. A trade agreement between Egypt and Europe, a trade agreement between Egypt and the Arab countries, trade agreement with the African countries, trade agreements with the United States through the QIZ, trade agreements with Latin American, Mercosur, which is Brazil and Argentina and other countries in Latin America, trade agreement with Switzerland, trade agreement with Turkey, and all these trade agreements were actually giving us preferential treatment in these markets, but also giving access to these countries into our country. And of course, some people said this is not good for us because it will increase competition. But that was exactly the point. I wanted to increase competition because we can only be better if we start increasing competition. At the same time, I have to train people to become better and to be up to the competition. At the same level that we were pushing the development of the industry and our traders, we were also opening up the markets outside and inside. One of the most influential things that also have been happening is how we can really train people to be more prepared for production and for the productivity equation that we wanted. There is a big issue in a country like Egypt, which is not only Egypt but also other countries, is that the education system is not aligned with the requirements of the market. I was probably the first Minister of Trade and Industry that requested the Minister of Higher Education that I want to meet the heads of all the universities of Egypt. And I debated with them in a very open way how we can have the alignment between the education and the real request of the market. And I told them very openly, we have a serious problem. You keep producing graduates that do not fit our market. They come out, they're unemployed. In the meantime, our production units, our institutions, our banks, our accounting firms, our every activity that we have cannot find the right skills that we want. We need to start seriously working hand in hand on how we can find that. And we put in motion some of this mechanism. The focus on the human development of Egypt was very high in my agenda. One of the most important things in development of every country, because at the end of the day, it's people who make the difference.